Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Dracula Origin. Let's check out this book.
This book. It is as if it is protected by a demonic aura. I must unravel its secret.
Easier said than done, I'm afraid. This looks really complicated. We can move the little things around. And we can also move these panels. But first, let's check out the bat at the top. Ow, that kind of hurt. But we lit up one of these panels here. And that means that one is in the correct spot. So let's swap some of these around. Switch those two, switch these two. And then switch these two and these two. I'll have to leave one in the same position it was in, so we know this will be wrong no matter what, but we've got no other ones that are correct, actually. Awesome. So let's switch these two, and those ones, and these two. See if this gets any of them correct. Wow, that's actually really good. So this one was initially in this position, I think? That sounds right. So let's swap those two out, and then these two. And that should be it. Or maybe I'm completely wrong. One or the other. Here, we'll just do this one at a time here. There we go. And we're in. Or we're not, actually. We have to put the jewels around the edge. And I think there was a specific way to do this, but I can't quite remember. I actually have no idea which order they go in. This is totally wrong, isn't it? How are you even supposed to tell? Gives you no indication of color here. There might be clues in the world somewhere. Oh, and there's a reset button down here as well. Okay, so I've got the green one in the correct spot. Let's try moving that out of the way. I hope I don't have to play around with all of these. Is that blue one lit? I can't even tell. I think that white one is back in the same spot I was in earlier, so this isn't going to work. The red one's in the correct spot, though. Yeah, I don't think that blue one is lit. Actually, we'll move that there. The blue one will move down, and the white will move up.
Finally,
there we go.
I can access the pages of this damned book. But, hell's bells. It seems that the same man wrote the whole book over the course of many centuries.
And here we go. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 pages. It's going to be a lot of reading. In fact, I think I might... You know what? I'll just read it. Let's do it. Summer of the year of our Lord, 1477. I can no longer die. Of this I am certain. The strongest blows barely register. I almost feel pleasure to sense this pain, reminiscence of my past glory. This morning, one of Ivan's brothers in arms, who was absent from the banquet, came to the castle. He had heard from scoundrels the narration of events that had taken place the evening of the banquet. He challenged me outside, but I begged him to enter, as the sunlight was blinding, and the warmth burned my hands. He declared that he wanted to do justice, in the name of honor and in the name of God. He too called me a demon. I stared at him, miserable vermin in his polished armor. I felt his heart beating wildly, the tightening of his hand on his sword. He forced me to take a weapon, and I told him that it was my habit to discipline swine with my bare hands. His first blow seemed to be incredibly slow and gentle. This man must have weighed 200 pounds, and my hand barely moved back when I stopped his sword. He hit me again and again, while an indescribable euphoria grew in me, and I was surprised to whoop with laughter under his attack. And the hunger came, as it had already come. I threw myself on him like wolves on cattle, and I crushed him between my hands. His heart was still beating as I became inebriated from his blood. It was better, yes, much better. December of the year 1477. But what have I become? An eternal terror seizes me as I write these words. All is dark around me, all is cold. I am alone, infinitely alone. I cry for hours on end. Alcohol, which I have engorged by the barrel, no longer has any effect on me. My spirit, gnawed away by memories that I cannot chase away. This image of her that I wanted to banish haunts me each instant. It's a curse. She will make of me what I have dreamed of being in my moments of anger. Only the creatures of the night hear my cries and can testify to my terror. I will soon slump into madness and will be the instrument of the demon inside me, the demon who denies my gaze when I search for it in the mirror, the demon who kisses me at the morning's glow and pushes me to nuzzle under the earth in the darkness. I am no longer human, I can sense it. Hunger comes when I think of the truly alive, and I cannot resist the intoxication that comes from appeasing this hunger, even as I contemplate its horror. I must write, put down onto these pages my history, so that the madness cannot make who I am, who I was, disappear. It was I who conquered this land. Of all the warriors, I was the most ferocious and the most feared. I won impossible and decisive victories, leading to the deaths of hundreds of my comrades. At the mention of my name, my enemies trembled. At the sight of my banner, they fled. This pagan land was conquered in the name of God, but in a way that had nothing to do with saintly beliefs. Entire villages burnt, roads bordered with cadavers hanging from the gallows, hundreds of erect stakes, dripping with blood like wine from a press. Children, women, elders, so many lambs sacrificed in these wars of terror. Everywhere the fetid odor of decaying carrion mixed with that nauseating stench of burnt human flesh. Bloated, bent and broken bodies eaten by worms. And so much blood. Victory in these lands comes to he who shows the most determination in face of the horrors and atrocities. He who is first to instill a supernatural terror in their enemy, regardless of the price. And it was me. Thus came peace. But certain men aren't made for peace. I had them come and stay in my castle, the knights who had fought at my side, as well as their families. In this devastated land, it was the only dignified residence for those brave warriors and their noble dames. It was then that I saw her, Irina, the daughter of one of my comrades who had died on the battlefield. She was everything. I saw nothing but her. She suffused the castle with an enchanting light and warmth. Each of her steps was a dance, her voice the whisper of her soul. Her beauty transformed the world, transformed people. She was, at the same time, the ultimate happiness and the most destructive suffering, when I had to stand next to her without being able to kiss her and embrace her and make her mine. Thus my court was started, propelled by a total and sincere love. But voices came to her, voices that recounted the war and its battles, that recounted the villages burned with pleasure, the abominable tortures performed under my command, that recounted the hundreds of innocents decapitated in a move of anger, that recounted foremost my cruel laughter in this bloodbath. Despite my efforts to make her share my passion, I was greeted with a coldness marked with disgust. Mostly, I wanted to show her the light of love in the depths of my eyes. Mostly, she saw the blackness of death. And then he came, beautiful and blazing, with his handsome shield, the legendary artifact, my young cousin Ivan, rejoining us after the battle and turning the heads of the ladies with each step. Generous and likable, he shone in peacetime, as I had once made him do during wartime. They were inseparable. He held her arm, and she called him my lordship. He praised God, and she drank his words. But hadn't I also served God? Hadn't I risked death 1,000,000 times for his glory? And it is to this puppet that God gave the right to charm my beloved, my only one, in his name. Thus I disavowed God and his holy hypocrisy. In these formerly pagan lands subsisted rites to which I secretly initiated myself. I disavowed God from the depths of my soul, and swore to combat his defenders with 10 times more vigor than ever his enemies. The thirst for vengeance grew in me. I felt myself becoming a beast. The castle's inhabitants looked at me with a growing fear, my foul temper having much to do with it. I began to whip clumsy servants, or those who tarried in carrying out my orders. My brothers-in-arms turned from me. Next came the marriage announcement that threw me into the abyss. Ivan and Irina announced their engagement, held the previous eve in Ivan and Irina announced their engagement, held the previous eve in secrecy, and their imminent wedding. Everyone present applauded the news, and I felt the mocking and condescending looks drift over me, the inevitable lot of the spurned lover. At that point, right in front of my eyes, the red veil of anger and blood fell. I managed nonetheless to contain my despair and fury, and invited the whole court to a great banquet to be given the next day, in honor of the would-be wedded couple. I retired then, and during all of the preparations I was convulsed with pain and hatred, alone in my chamber to cultivate my fury. When the evening came, in the absence of Irina, who had left to put on a dress that I had previously offered, I proposed a toast at the banquet table, having taken care to order the servants to leave the hall and to allow only the guests of noble lineage remain. As the knights and dames, all without exception, raised their goblets to their lips, I began a speech of the hypocrisy of their supposed god and of their similar villainy. How did they dare pray while the wine that they drank came from the land soiled by the blood of innocents massacred in the name of God? How dare they laugh at me, the lord of this castle, I who nourished them and who had won them a life of affluence in troubled times? None answered. The drug that I had obtained from a local hag and poured into the goblets had paralyzed them, although they could still see and hear perfectly. Only my cup and that of Ivan had been spared. He sprung up and demanded my repentance. I laughed in the face of this buffoon, as he clamored with the kind of hate that I had experienced after he stole my loved one. My emotions, contained for so long and so deeply, exploded. I bounded across the room and threw myself onto my rival like a savage beast. My hands clasped his, but his ardor and the force of his conviction began to make me lose my grip. It was thus that I sealed my demonic pact with blood. With all of the strength of my denial of God and his children, I threw my jaws into the assault of my adversary's neck. I plunged my canines deeply into his flesh and binged on the vital liquid, as the predator feeds from his prey. An unnatural intoxication overtook me as the grasp on my arms released. I couldn't bring myself to tear away from this crimson fountain from which I imbibed. When the source dried up, I separated myself from this pale carcass and stood up, my face stained with scarlet trails, and turned, euphoric, towards my other guests, rigid and feverish. I was then overcome with visions of stakes, gallows, and decapitations. Arming myself with the sword leaning against my chair, I jumped on the table and began a dance of death, in which each of my twirls was greeted by a fountain of blood coming from the necks, which my sword liberated from their, thus forth, superfluous heads. Undoubtedly attracted by my shrieks of laughter, Irina entered the hall and witnessed the scene. I attempted to explain that my infinite love for her was the source of everything, and that this spectacular and unimaginable horror was the proof. She was determined not to hear me, and fled up the stairs above the dungeon, and I pursued her while proclaiming my love. When I caught up with her on the crenulated roof, in the feeble glow of the moon, she screamed into the wind all of the hatred she felt for me, that I couldn't respond to but with words of love. As I stepped forward to finally claim my prize, she threw herself into the void, into the mist that masks the cliffs encircling the castle. I sunk to the ground, divided between an incredible force that I felt growing inside me and the sadness of an unfathomable black pit into which I fell, body and soul, and which, with jealousy and hatred, I had dug myself. April 16th, 1887. It is incredible. After centuries of sadness and resignation, hope has been reborn in me. I feel the palpitations of love take possession of my spirit. The phantom memory of my adored darling that I searched in vain through evil pleasures and impossible flirtations I can now see in my mind and contemplate with delight. All of these readings, expenses, assassinations, and tactics have not been in vain. There is a way to bring Irina back to me. My zealous servants scoured Europe in search of the slightest indication, of the smallest rumor, of the most recent scientific works. I consolidated all of this knowledge by accumulating treatises and works, and this work yields today. All these centuries I thought myself to be the first to be abandoned to evil. I thought that the world had never known a soul as black as mine. But ancient works have now taught me that in remote Egypt, centuries before Christ and his cortege of refuse, a cult venerated damned gods. Given to the priests by the very mouth of the god's messenger was the secret to unspeakable rights and power over the void. Supposedly, a terrible incantation would have the power to bring back to earth all of the damned souls, and giving herself to death and being deprived of a burial spot, Irina damned herself and roams in the void. Her place is by my side. I must liberate her, bring her back to me, even if I release 1,000,000 damned souls onto the earth. The cult's black secrets will be hidden in the tomb of the great priest who awaits in non-death. I must find the location of this tomb. May 17, 1887. According to my subordinates, the colonial wars will have served to unearth numerous secrets in far-off Egypt. This region is still under British control, and the treasures are brought to London in order to be studied by scholars. It is perhaps there that is found the information that I seek, but I do not know this world. I must move my pawns in order to prepare my arrival. In the interim, I must classify all of my precious works, as there may be some clues in the books that I read 300 years ago. July 21st, 1898. Black luck doesn't stop smiling on me. As I struggled to inform myself on the customs of faraway England, the librarian who arrived to classify my works turned out to be English. I asked him 1,000 questions to which he answered in a precise and elaborate manner. I undertook all of the necessary preparations to welcome him in the greatest comfort to the castle, and I imagine that his stay here will be long. The man seems strangely ill at ease. His pulse beats abnormally quickly, and I feel his eyes fixed on me at each instant. Perhaps people from the West are weaker and more easily influenced than those of our rough clime. At the end of our discussion, a miracle, he spoke of his betrothed, who remains in England, and I asked if he had a photograph of her. He showed me the one which he keeps with him. At the first sight of this diaphanous face, I understood that the presence of this man was a gift from the damned gods. The incredible beauty of this young girl rekindled in me the memory of my past love, and I must, at all cost, find her. It isn't a caprice like my other flirtations. No, I know that, henceforth, this Mina is matchless, the only one worthy to receive the passion, the energy, the soul of Irina. I must possess her, have her in my power, guard her purity all while breaking her spirit. She will be the receptacle and forever the object of an insane love. As for this Harker, I will compensate him by giving him immortality and making him one of my children. Now, nothing further can stop my great undertaking. In 1 week, I depart for London. September 8th, 1898. It is my last evening in the capital of the world. What wonders I have seen since my arrival in London. This new world is so different from my own. But I cannot delay. The second phase of my great undertaking will begin. I succeeded in finding the location of the Demonomicon of Wilwigi, the cursed text that contains the secret rite permitting me to bring my beloved back to me. The tomb is located not far from Cairo, and everything is in place there to receive me and permit me to act promptly. My subordinate has worked well. It's rare for a human. At nightfall I will find Mina in order to pay my homage. I am anxious to taste her warmth, smell the perfume of her hair, the caress of her breath. I burn with impatience like a lover before his first tryst. I am also anxious to bring this beautiful young girl back with me and to speak the forbidden words. Nothing will stop me from bringing Irina back, and if, at the same time, I liberate a swarm of damned, demented souls, will it not be a wonderful spectacle to see the torrents of blood that will flow around the world when these avenging spirits annihilate the human race? So, it would seem that Harker has been turned into a vampire, Dracula is visiting Mina as we speak, and he's going to be heading to Egypt soon. Awesome. And this should summarize everything. Dracula's journal, which was found in Godalming Manor, is extraordinarily terrifying. It is written by the very hand of an immortal of a vampire. The first two entries date from over 500 years ago, while the latter are from this year, a few months ago, some weeks ago, and the latest, this very day. The beast was here, in this room. I missed him by a few hours, a few minutes perhaps. Note, the vampire mentions the Demonomicon of Willowiggy. What is this? And why is it so hard to pronounce?
Damnation, Mina! He must be with her at this moment. I was not able to save Harker, but I cannot lose her. I must get to her as soon as possible.
Uh-oh. This is not good.
I hear someone coming this way. It must be the butler. Quick, run.
Back through the secret passage we go. Because we do not want to be caught in here. We'll probably get killed. Ah, here we are. We're back in Mina's apartment. Or her house, I should say.
Careful. I feel a presence.
Right, so in order to protect ourselves, we should bring our crucifix with us.
Back, demon, in the name of the Holy Cross. Leave this child and depart from this house. In any case, I did not count on lingering. We have already consumed our union, and I did not come for a discussion. It will give me great pleasure to see you again soon, my dear. Your body calls to be covered in roses and love. As for yours, sir, it will soon be a putrid, gory mass where worms will feast.
This is terrible. Mina is in a dire condition. She's been bitten. She's going to turn into a vampire if we don't do something quick. So let's send a whatever you call these things, telegraph? I actually have no idea. To Seward MD, Director of Carfax Sanatorium. My dear friend and disciple, if you are to receive this telegram, know it is because of my situation is critical, and the only person in whom I hope I may confide totally is you. Since the days of my teaching in the Royal College, where I have been honored to be your preceptor, I devoted my life to a desperate fight against evil. My foe is so terrible and profoundly mystic that I refrain to speak about it, even in the most scholarly circles. My deepest hope was to protect my friends, and you being one of them, as brave and confident in me as you are, this hope is now to be forgotten. Unwillingly I must engage you to the unthinkable crusade. Make you join my silent and lonely road and set you against reality, which you would undoubtedly prefer to ignore. Immediately upon receiving this paper, would you bring your medical instruments and join me at the apartment of Mina, the young fiancée of our old friend Jonathan Harker, who shared with me the knowledge that you will soon share, and paid for it with his mortal life. Professor Van Helsing. So hopefully Seward can help us fix Mina, or at least keep her from turning too quickly. We'll find out.
She is stable, but extremely weak. As for her teeth, they haven't started.
Yes, I know. But it is only a question of days. She is contaminated, and despite all of the transfusions that we may do, she will sooner or later become one of them.
Look there. You'd think she was an angel. What do you suggest doing? Will you wait until she mutates completely?
There exists perhaps a glimmer of hope, Seward. I have to pursue the demon and try to counter his plans.
Mad idea. Do you at least know where he could be?
Not so mad, after all. Find me a map of Europe, Seward. Harker must have had one here. And then let's decide where to start my journey.
Well, we know we have to go to Egypt. So, let's just see if he has a map.
There. Perfect.
And he does, and they do give you the option to jump in here and reread everything. But you don't have to. If you went through it the first time, you know that you do have to go to Egypt, to Cairo. There are a lot of other places you could click on. It's a nice big map of Europe. And your first thought would probably be Romania. Or the surrounding area, you know, Transylvania and all that. But there's no Transylvania on the map, I don't believe. No, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, I'm going way too far out now. Yeah, Transylvania is not on the map. So, we can't go right to his castle. We have to go to Cairo first.
There. Perfect. In his lair in London, I discovered a journal that Count Dracula had composed in his own hand. The demon has departed for Cairo. It seems that there are some ancient texts there that talk of rituals and maledictions. Perhaps there is one that explains vampirism. I know it is highly unlikely. Even if that weren't the case, Dracula seems to want to find this work at any cost. If I make my way there and find it before him, I could exchange it for Mina's salvation. And if none of that comes to fruition, I finally have, after so many years, fresh tracks leading to the Count. I will be able to find him and destroy him. I will contact the director of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo by courier today. I believe he is the only person who can help me and guide my research. If you wish to contact me, write to me care of the museum. Keep me informed as to the progress of Mina's illness, and keep a better eye on her than I was able to, Seward.
So we're heading to Egypt. Personally, I think Professor Van Helsing is more concerned with killing Dracula than saving Mina. But that's my own personal opinion. It might not be the case. In any case, we will end the episode here. It's been a little bit of a long one, mostly because of all that reading I had to do. I'll probably put an annotation up so you can skip over that or something. Anyway, that'll be the end of this episode, so thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.